What is in your studio? What do you typically work on?
So I have my MacBook Pro M1. Um, what is it? Not the bit, not all Ultra. It's just Max
Yeah.
M1. I have some neat microphones. I have a U87. You just see it right here. I think you know what I'm talking about. I
I
have
do.
another I have a U47. Now I'm bragging now. Okay, I don't use that much. But yeah, I have a good audio interface.
What do you
I
use for your interface?
I have this antelope discrete force
Oh,
called Antelope. I have to say, I didn't really know that brand before, but I was amazed that I could hear the difference between that and I had old TC Connect 48, I think it
yeah.
was, and all the old machine, but the difference is quite astonishing. It's really a good has good AD and DA. How do you call it in English?
Converters.
Converters, right? Converters, and it's really working fine. I have a good preamp. I have this Avalon 737
Nice.
preamp. Yeah, nice. I bought it like 10 years ago. I don't even remember now. And I record my guitars through Axe Fractal Audio Axe 2. Yeah, and some
So you're
trees.
not miking amps, you're always going through a sim?
I have an amp right here in the back, a Fender Hot Rod, and I did do some miking, with a 57 and farther away a large diaphragm microphone. But at the end of the day, I was like, it's not really like bringing it to the next level because the fractal audio is just really like incredibly well engineered. It works really well, I have to say.
I've got to say, I'm an engineer by trade. It's, I always tell my wife on my tombstone, I want to say Michael Laskow studio rat, because as much as I love running taxi, and I do, um, there's still part of me every day that wishes I was back in the studio. I loved learning new stuff and making it work. That moment where you go, hell yeah, that thing I read about in a magazine or a book or online, and I tried it and it took 5 minutes of tweaking and it sounds amazing now. I miss doing that. But
Yeah.
I fantasize that someday, if I ever retire and I go back to just making music, in a home studio, similar to what you're doing, um, as much as I love getting guitar sounds with amps and 57s and a large diaphragm 6 feet away, why? Why bother? The simulators are so incredibly good. The prices have gotten ridiculously affordable. People keep telling there's one by HK. No, not HK. Um, IK Multimedia has one now that's like a few $100s. I can't remember the model or the name of it, but people are telling me that they've gotten rid of their Kemplers or Kempers.
Temper,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, in exchange for this IK Multimedia thing that's a fraction of the price and works great.
I keep my eyes and ears open for every new thing that comes along, and I listen and try, and yeah, just exactly what you said. But I have to say, being from that time where I mean the first like, whew, I worked in a studio from 88 to 97, and we had a real we had a 1 inch 16 track Fastex, machine, and I was working on a database with that, and something that I took from that era is that even if I record a guitar and I have like 7 versions of the thing, I decide which one I want. I throw the other ones away all the time. I
Yeah.
never keep versions. I make the decision. I don't like to have versions of things. This makes me crazy. I just why postpone the process of deciding to later? Is it good? Does it fit? Yes. Okay. No. Okay. Gone.
Wow, I just fell in love with you at a whole new level of respect because that's the world I come from. I started out on 16 tracks, then it quickly morphed into 24. but you had to make decisions. And because of limited tracks, we had to do premixes of background vocals or rhythm guitar subs and things like that. And people look at me nowadays that have grown up on Pro Tools or Logic or what have you, and they're like, "Oh man, that must have been so hard." Well, it really wasn't. After doing it enough times, you're able to make a decision in the moment and go, "This sounds better than that." Excuse me, I'm keeping this, and move on to the next thing. So you had open tracks by combining. It's too many choices means too much time spent.
Yeah, and you know how happy I am now, because I really come from the time where we had these 16 tracks, and you remember, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We tried to hook up a Atari computer, a synchronized Atari computer to the 16 Fostex machine, you know. So one track, number 16, of course, what was the SMPT code, you know,
Right.
that bled into the track number 15. So you couldn't really use track number 15. And I remember it to that day when the owner of the studio came to me and said, look, there is a little box like that that can synchronize a Atari computer running the predecessor, or what, how do you say,
Processor?
no, the generation before Logic, you know, it was called Imagic Creator.
Okay.
Predecessor. Well, it's just a word. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, so it was this really like this really nasty looking Atari computer, and he said, "There's a box you can synchronize the reel to reel machine with that." And this little box, it had like two MIDI, a MIDI input, a MIDI output, and two like audio in and outputs, you know. I mean, nothing. There was nothing, but it took us a whole day from the morning to the night to figure out how to synchronize these two things, you know. But the moment this reel to reel machine was playing in sync with the MIDI, I mean, I felt like an astronaut who found a new planet. You know, it was like amazing, you know. So you could synchronize actually what you played MIDI, what you programmed MIDI with vocals that you recorded on the reel to reel, and that was a pivotal moment. I never forget that. But now here we are, you know, recording 200 audio tracks and 500 soft synth tracks, you know, at the same time, you know.
It is
But
mind blowing.
it's mind blowing. It's just like but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. But still,
I'm jealous. I wish I had the time. I put Logic on the laptop I'm talking to you on right now about 3 years ago, right before COVID kicked in. And every now and then I'll have a Sunday where I actually get the day off and I'll sit down and do 2 or 3 hours of mixing something in Logic. First of all, I'm blown away by the quality of the plugins that come stock with Logic. Um, and it's intimidating because of all the choices. I grew up in studios like this. That's what I learned to work on. And that, like that Neve console sitting behind me can only do a fraction of what you can do in Logic as far as the the EQ, the compression, the routing. Oh my gosh, things like that. And tape machines, forget it. You know, we had to come in every morning with test tones on a 2-inch tape and do alignments of every channel to get accurate playback. Now it's so easy, but yet so.
you sidechain whatever and busing everything to whatever you want, you know. I mean, this is, you can create this whole big puzzle of input output side chaining and stuff, and no, it's really amazing.
And automation that actually gets it right. Back in the days of consoles like this, the automation, it's funny, every time I point, my NS10s keep showing up behind me, but not the ones in the picture, the ones in my office. Yeah,
Can you imagine? Do you know what my first automation was on the first desk in the studio I was working in?
what?
I show it right. I show it right away. This was my automation.
Right.
Five five faders with some tape stick together. Okay, let's bring all the backing vocals up right now. Woof.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many mixes I did, pencil mixes, where I had my
Really? Oh,
assistant
you did?
engineer standing next to me at the console, and I'd go, okay, four, three, two, one, up. And they knew, bring it up to the zero. And then after the chorus, bring it back down or mute them all
Ah,
because somebody talked or sneezed. I totally get you. Um,
oh,
your mixes sound really, really good.
thank you.
What is your approach? One thing that I'm really proud of you for getting is your kick and bass relationship. So
Mm.
many home studio owners didn't have that studio training or anybody else on staff with them to say, your mix sounds great. The stereo spread is nice. The clarity is there. Distortion is on the right things. But yet the kick drum and bass guitar seem to lack in a lot of people's mixes. I was blessed to start out in a pro studio as a floor sweeper. But one thing I learned very quickly is kick and bass matters so much. Everything else is like colorful sprinkles on top of the ice cream sundae, but you got to have the ice cream and the chocolate sauce to begin with. How did you learn to get those relationships as good as you get them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're mentioning here a very important point of the modern music, and it's just a low end. Of course, everybody wants to have a killer low end, and it for the first thing you have to realize, for me, the sound spectrum is like a upside down pyramid. At the bottom is the bass, where there is almost no room. I mean, you can hardly just fit two instruments there, just the kick and the bass. And the higher up you go, the more instrument there's space for more instruments. So this is realization number one. You
Mhm.
cannot have a keyboard, you know, playing under 100 or 200 hertz, and this will interfere with the bass, point blank. I mean, this is a law of physics. The second thing is I think, if you're looking for the punch and the kick of the low end, you have to realize that only one of the two can have the transients all the way in front. So you have to kind of decide who is doing the transient part of the thing. So one way is to sidechain a compressor, and let the bass drum be the transient at the beginning, and with the sidechained compressor you lower the beginning, I don't know, 10 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds of the bass. That clears out the whole thing, or you do it vice versa. You can decide, but these are the two main things. And besides that, I think everything on the 30 hertz needs to be cut in my eyes,
Has
because
no purpose in the world.
it, first of all, you don't hear it, and it brings the energy level up so much, and it drives every multi pressor or whatever they're called, or limiters, just nuts, and
Yeah.
you go like, why is my mix so low, because these low ends that you don't hear are just bringing everything down.
It's wasted dynamic energy on the bottom end that just like right serves no purpose unless you're in a movie theater with the speakers under your butt that vibrate you and the jet flies by. Then 30 hertz matters.
Then the next thing is, of course, you have to listen. They have to, first of all, play well together, bass kick and the bass, but then together they have to really like fit. They have to fit into the rest of the mix. Because it's the same old, it's the old story about, oh, my bass solos, my bass sounds great, but in the mix it sounds like a piece of crap. And then on the other hand, you find a bass that sounds great in the mix, you saw it and like, what, this bass sounds so good in the mix. So it's always, you always have to listen to the stuff in the mix. It's just,
I've got to say, I think that the basic understanding of the physics of sound as it relates to music is not understood by people because technology has made it so that you can just use a preset on something. You don't understand why it sounds good, but it does. And that's okay. If the end result works, great. And maybe it got you there faster. But there are times that you need to understand what you just explained, which is muddying up the bottom end by having two things in the same, frequency spectrum. So even though you can rely on presets, knowing when to rely on your ears and your basic knowledge of those physics of sound, that's a very important part of the puzzle that I fear is getting lost with each generation of DAW users.
Absolutely. And then I think one thing that a lot of people are missing out is like the best mix starts with a good arrangement. I mean, this is just like this is the law number one. You know, if you have a guitar, if you have two guitars left and right and two synths left and right playing in the same range,
Right.
it's gonna muddy up the whole mix. I mean, you got to put one octave higher, maybe it clears out, and if it doesn't, just throw it away, leave it alone, let it be. You know, it's just you have to have that understanding that if something is nice, it doesn't mean it belongs in the arrangement. You know, it doesn't
I've
maybe.
got a phrase for that that I was taught very early in my career, which is just because you can doesn't mean you should. But that's a lesson that only comes with experience. You can't just learn that in an afternoon or reading it in a book or even in a week. It might take you 6 months of trial and error to have that. But once you figure it out, then you're good to go forever, and you will know that. Even as you're coming up with the part in your head, nope, that would be too busy. That synth part would be too busy with the guitar part, and you simplify before you ever lay down the first note in the recording.
Another tip is for me, I mean, for me personally, like I said it at the beginning already, I cannot start a cue and end it in this on the same day. It's just I would never trust that mix or that arrangement, you know. So I always, I master it, put it on SoundCloud, listen to it in the car, and already on first listen, I mean, in 90% of the cases, I'm going back to the drawing board. You know, this is too much. And this is normally, I mean, and in the other 90%, it's always too much. I always take stuff away, the next day. It's just,
Man, you have learned all the valuable tools, but your resume, once again, you've been doing related stuff long enough that you were blessed to be introduced to these concepts, whether it's engineering, arranging, composing, early on. So, like I said, I read your resume and went, "Oh, this guy was like a thoroughbred racehorse waiting for the gate to open. That's all you needed was the gate to open." And
yeah,
I'm really,
I feel like that. I feel like that. It was a life-changing decision to join Taxi. I mean, this I can really emphasize. I can't emphasize it enough. Totally. I mean, when I talk to other people, I tell them, look, everything I did so far in my life, and almost everything was music related, not only but also business related. Everything that I learned during my whole life until now, I can just take and put it on that horse. If you want to stay with that knowledge of a horse, and go with it. It's just I feel like I can use everything that I learned so far and bring it to the game. And this is really cool. Also the business part.
yeah.
Fast communication, answer their emails. As if yeah, no, I cannot understand why people take weeks to answer email. First of all, I will forget, that even somebody wrote me, after a week. It's just
Yeah.
I cannot wrap my head around how people work sometimes. It's just you have to be forward. You have to answer. You have to be polite and answer.
But creative people in general, whether it's visual arts or sonic arts, whatever, um, are all imbued with this sense, and I do understand it. I just wish it didn't exist to the extent that it does. That my music is so good. I love it. They're going to love it too. And that excuses me from all the other components that go into having a professional career. One of the thing that's equally as important as the music is how you act as a professional in your interactions with the industry people. So glad you brought that up.
Absolutely. No, this, I mean, this is crucial. I mean, during the course of my career, I worked with great musicians, but if the guy doesn't show up to the first rehearsal, you're out, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play your ass off. Sorry for my French, but here's the door. I cannot rely on you, point blank. You're a wonderful pianist. I adore your music, but I can't use it in my project. There's too much stuff depending on it. And I have had several of this cases. Where people, amazing people, just weren't professional enough. Nah, out the door.
Yeah, and then they blame everybody but themselves, which is sad because they were this close to it. They were an inch away from it.
Absolutely.
All they had to do was perfect that professional aspect. How many libraries are you in now?
Okay, I signed 8 contracts so far since end of 21. One, like I said, vanished, and one didn't really work out. I mean, it's just didn't work out because no hard feeling, was no sour taste in the mouth. It was just that what they needed for wasn't really my style. But with the 6 other ones, it worked out. Basically, I'm working with 6 libraries right now, with 2 very on a weekly base, and with the other 3, sporadically. But the 2 that I'm working with, I mean, I have my agenda is full to the end of the year. I'm working
Wow,
right now simultaneously on 10 collections, so I'm busy.
amazing. Are you starting to see placements happen as a result? I
Yes, yes,
know it will take longer because you're
yeah,
probably,
yeah, yeah.
the money has to go from wherever to ASCAP or BMI in America and then over to,
I'm not expecting a big payouts until next year or in 2 years or 3 years. I don't really care about that because I'm confident that it will arrive.
yeah.
But I just have to be patient. Yeah, there were some placements that I know of in Europe, in Denmark, and in Estland, Estonia. Sorry, it's called
Mhm.
Estonia. And I'm sure there are the placements, but I have no idea because the amazing thing is, if you sign with a library, chances are that they are sub-published by other libraries. So I all of a sudden saw that, hey, my music is also on Bulletproof Bear. My music is also on Modus, a big, large British library. So, and it's just starting to spread, like a spider web, like layer by layer is going out, and that's a good feeling. My music is out there, and eventually it will
Yeah,
be.
it's cumulative, and you're right. Someday, maybe the first year you see significant money roll in, it might be 10 grand. The next year it'll be 18 grand. The year after that it'll be 35. Eventually, I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to break 6 figures.
Oh,
And what a
wow.
you
I'm not
absolutely
expecting that. I'm not expecting that, but
I can tell. There aren't that many things that I'm an expert on, but I can feel it when a member is the kind of member that joins that lofty 6 figure club. You are absolutely, mark my
wow.
words, you're going to be one of those people. And what a great way, not that musicians ever really retire, but someday when you're ready to kick back a little bit and go on fishing trips or vacations, with your wife, and know that those checks are showing up on a quarterly basis because
That
of
would,
something you did 17 years ago.
yeah, yeah, that would be my dream. I mean, that's what I'm aiming for, to be honest. That would be great. To have some income after I retire, which will be in 5 years, believe it or not.
Wow. Um, uh, yeah, we had one of our members is a certified financial planner, and he's very adept at making production music as well. And maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago at the Road Rally, he and I did a thing together on the stage where he ran projections of starting out in year one and all the way, let's say, I think he calculated 30 years of doing it. So the person was 35 when they started and retired at 65. And I want to say that it was like $117,000 a year at the end, and they would, or maybe they retired with 1 point some million dollars in the bank, and he did it in a very cautious way, not like,
Right,
you know,
right, right,
he
right.
didn't amplify the numbers or exaggerate them. If anything, he was very conservative in his calculations. It can absolutely happen. I know this because I've got taxi members that have done it,
Yeah,
and
I know if all the parameters are set right, you can reach that goal,
yeah.
but you gotta do the work, this that's no doubt about.
So before we wrap this up, and I didn't preface you with any of these questions, frankly, but this one in particular, so it may take a minute to come up with an answer, but because you seem to have figured out the system, the industry, how to play the game really early in your arc, you're a member now for 2.5 years or something. What do you see that maybe some of your fellow members who are frustrated and not figuring it out as quickly or as effectively as you are, do you have any advice? Like, if you were out having a beer with 6 new taxi members, what would you tell them? Is a better way for me to ask that question.
I mean, definitely is to read the briefs. I mean, this it has been mentioned, every time I look at the episode, it's just read the effing brief, just read it not once, but read it twice. I mean, I remember the first briefs. I printed them out and put it in a book, and I marked all the important
Brilliant.
words, because I thought, look, this is somebody is writing you a letter of what you got to do, so you better read it carefully, and not just the first third of the brief, but read it from bottom to the end, and that's the way I work. If I read it once, I don't get everything, it's just, I have to read it twice, 3 times, and just mark the important sections. And then this is the number one, and first of all, also understand what they want. If you don't understand something, how you want to possibly write a good cue or a fitting cue if you don't understand things. So this is number one. And second is, we are talking about music, we are talking about art, so there is no way you can produce in a good way without listening to the references over and over and over again, until you make it your own. You have to listen to these references just like, religiously over and over again, to find out what is this, what they want. I mean, I also made my mistakes, where I thought in a cocky way, no problem, I do this funk cue, and it was a failure. I was too fast and thinking, yeah, I got this down, but didn't get the brief. That was calling for something slightly different, but it was wrong. I didn't do the right thing. These are the two things, and there is this word is called the taxi hole. It has been a topic in the last month. Remember, you read about it, or it was, that after you get a forward,
Right. The black hole.
it's a taxi black hole. Exactly, the taxi black hole. And I was also frustrated at the beginning, but it just shows how the cookie crumbles. And this is no fault. There's no taxis. You cannot change the industry. It's just how it works. And since I know library owners now, I'm starting to understand why this black hole exists, because they get the forward, because from the time they decide to do the listing to the time they get the forwards, maybe things have changed already, and so they just put it on a back burner, and it's going to stay there. Maybe it will generate a contact later on, but patience, I think patience is the one tip that I would give to everybody. Just, stick it out and just stay with it. Don't think in months, don't think in 1 year, think in 5, 6, 7 years, at least. it that's
That's
just the
asking a lot of people, but you're 100% right.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just the way it is, and if I know, now I know, because I have the information firsthand, that, you know, even if you make it into a collection, that doesn't mean anything yet. I mean, this is already a big step. Your music has been signed, your music is on an album, but what then? It can take 5 years until
A piece gets licensed. Yeah.
gets it, and then it's not finished. This dude has to do the editings, has to put it in the show, then the show has to be aired, and then whoever needs to do the cue sheets has to fill out the cue sheets, send it to the PRO. These guys in the PRO have to work on it, and then Lord knows when when you get paid. This takes years. I'm sorry. It's That's just the name of the game, and you have to understand that, and have to agree. If that is too slow for you, by no
You're in the
means.
wrong industry. Yeah.
And that's okay. I can totally understand. I can totally understand if for somebody that's frustrating. They don't want to wait too long. They want to have results immediately. It's okay. No problem. No problem. But that's not. Then you're in the wrong game. Totally.
Yeah, I wish I could tap everybody in the forehead with my magic wand and get them to understand what you just articulated so beautifully. As you were saying it, I thought, man, I wish he could come to the road rally this year. I would literally
Oh,
put
I
you on
can.
stage and just say, Chris, tell what you did in the passenger profile. Um,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
so
Okay.
right, because people, whether it's a record deal or film and TV music, they think that somebody's going to hear my music, the pearly gates are going to open up, and everything is going to change. But even with a record deal with a major label like Atlantic or Columbia or Universal, the minute you get signed, you're looking at a year and a half to 2 years before that album even comes out. And once it's out, then it could take 6 months to a year before it catches fire in any way, shape, or form. And that involves touring and all kinds of marketing and promotion. And even then, you're probably looking at a 5 or 10% chance that it will grab onto the public. So it is a game of patiently waiting, but
Absolutely.
you can't like make the submission and then wait for the pearly gates to open. Make that submission and make another queue tomorrow. And the next day, make another queue. And the next day, another queue. Because eventually the pearly gates will open up,
Absolutely.
because it's cumulative and you've been patient. And you are such a shining example of what successful members look like, because you understand this stuff. I'm really,
Yeah.
really happy for you.
You have to get to the point where a forward is already a result enough for your work, and because there's an absolute professional who thought your music is good, and that should be enough for now. Stop.
Yeah.
Don't wish for anything else right now. Go on, because the rest is totally out of our hands. Taxi can't do anything. I can't do anything. So, you know, it's out there, and we'll do its course, and you have no, you can't do anything about it. So
You will be very happy to know that when we finish this interview, I'm going to stay in the office for like another 6 or 8 hours working on road rally stuff. And one of the panels that I'm deciding who's on it today is called, Do You Feel Like Your Music Has Gone Into a Black Hole? I want to
ah,
address this issue in a ballroom full of
hey,
people, because it's heartbreaking when I see people that are talented and have what it takes, but they quit after their first year. Maybe even they quit after 3 months and ask for a refund because they haven't absorbed what you just said so beautifully. And it's heartbreaking. They were 10 feet away from touching the side of the swimming pool in the race, and they gave up too soon.
yeah, that's what I hear often. That the guys who make it were just stupid enough not to quit. I heard
Right.
that.
Well, some may think of it as stupid. I think of it as
Oh, it's
brilliantly perseverant. And
yeah,
Just congratulations. I can't wait to talk to you in 5 years and see everything that's, I'm sure we'll talk before then, but where you're going to be 5 years from now, I think will be shocking even to you, but not to me, because I can just feel
Oh,
it with you.
we'll see. We'll see. I just love creating music, and if something nice comes out of it, then lucky me. But I'm staying on it. I'm staying on it. That's for sure.
Well, you were a pleasure to interview. And again, my congratulations on what I'm.
Same here. It was a real pleasure, and hopefully I'll see you next year in Los Angeles.
Oh, by the way, everybody, you know what? It would be a good education. Go to Chris's Taxi homepage, where so much of his music lives. Just Google Chris Moser, Moser, Taxi, and he'll pop up in the Google feed. Go listen to his music. Listen to a lot of it, and lights will go on in your head. You will go, oh.
You.
I see. I'm 80% of the way, and now I understand what the last 20% is because this guy has exemplified it. So, Chris
Wow.
Moser, Moser, Taxi, and you will find it. Do you have a website that people can also check out?
Oh, this is another bad thing. Okay, culpa mia. It was on the plan for this year, but I didn't make it. I will surely come up with a homepage. I think it's everything. My wife started to set up everything. A Wix account is everything there, but just life takes place, and you have 1,000 things. I mean, I don't have to tell you.
It is amazing, On one hand, technology has made it easier to get so much done so more quickly, but it also means that like rockets are flying at you all day long, going, "Me first, take care of this, do that," and it ends up being counterproductive because there's so much input.
Absolutely. Like it's the homepage is like taxes. I should do them for a long time, but I have to finish that queue.
Yeah. No, that's
I
more
need to work on
important.
that queue. Oh no.
It's more
Other day.
important, but it's all important. Well, Chris, thank you again. This was really delightful. I could hang out for another hour.
Thank you. No, same here, same here. I wasn't even nervous, to tell the truth, because I know you from your shows, and I know that you're such a easygoing guy, funny guy, and yeah, I was really pleased to talk to you.
No, thank you.
Almost in person. We like
My
virtual.
wife would say I'm not an easygoing guy, but it's a
Well,
facade. The whole thing's an act.
let,
No,
let, let- let's
I
leave,
love
let's leave,
musicians.
let's leave our wives out of the equation right now. We talk about that later.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Moser. Thank you,
Thank you
Chris.
very much. Thank you.